Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about Asperger's syndrome, autism and friendships. It's something that one of you guys who posted on my video channels suggested that they would like me to talk about, so I thought, yeah, so now's the time to talk a little bit about it. So friendships and my problems with friendships. Well, basically, I as a child, I really struggled to make friends and to develop relationships with other children. I really wanted to make friends, though. I was quite a social child in that sense. It wasn't that I didn't want to make friends with other kids. It's just that I didn't know how to go about making friends with other kids. I mean, my earliest recollection of actually being friends with another child was when I was at nursery school, and when I would have been about sort of like 3.5, 4 years old, and I did make friends with a girl who was about a year younger than me, and this was a pattern throughout my childhood, that I very rarely made friends with kids who were my age. I nearly always, when I did, and a few occasions I did make friends with other kids, they were always several years, at least 1 year younger than me, and in many cases a lot younger than that even. So there was just one girl at nursery school that I befriended, and I remember we used to play little games where we'd hide under the chair every time a teacher approached, and just little things like that I can remember, and that was nice. And I thought of her as my best friend, and both our parents knew each other, which helped, and went round to her house, because my mum was friends with her mum. But it didn't continue past nursery school age, and as soon as I started primary school, I just had no idea. I had absolutely no idea how to connect with any of the kids in my class. It didn't help that I started almost a year later than the other kids, because my birthday being in the summer, so I was a lot younger than the other kids anyway, and I just didn't know how to make friends with any of them, so I was completely on my own. And the teachers noticed this. They didn't know the reasons why it was. They just told my parents that they were concerned because I wasn't interacting with the other kids, but they just told my mum to hang out more with the other parents at the school gates, and maybe that way that would help me make more friends, which wasn't really very good advice, I would say. They didn't really understand why it was that I couldn't make friends. I mean, I remember in reception spending most of my time in the reading corner, just reading, looking at the books and doing my own little thing. The teachers tried to get me to interact with others by pairing me up with two older girls who were about sort of 9 years old. This was when I was about 4, and they got me to play with them, or they got them to look after me at playtimes. And I remember we played dungeons together every break time. This was a game where we take it in turns to be the person that would be thrown into the dungeon. So it's a lot of running, sort of chase game, and then we'd get thrown in. I'd throw them into the dungeon, and the dungeon was like in a corner of the playground. I'll say, "Here's your stale carrots, stale bread or stale carrots," which I love doing. That was always really fun. And I remember we used to play that game, as I say, every break time. But again, one day they just didn't want to play it anymore, and I couldn't find them anywhere in the playground. They just probably got bored with this game because I wanted to play it every day. And from that moment onwards, I was completely on my own. And I just remember a very clear memory of when I was about sort of like 5 years old, and I was just standing in the playground all on my own, all the kids running around me, and I was like shivering because it was cold, and I was in my PE kit. That's a whole other story in itself, because I got told off for drawing on my school clothes, so I had to change into my PE kit. So I'd been in trouble, so I was rather upset. I was just standing there, kind of crying a little bit, feeling quite overwhelmed, and kids were all running around me. It's quite a clear memory, and I just felt really small in this big kind of like sea of kids that were just running all around me. But yeah, basically I was on my own most of the time, or playing with kids that were just a lot younger than me. More often than not, I was on my own though, or just annoying other kids because I didn't know how to play with them. So like one time I just butted into a group of girls and wanted to play with them. They didn't let me play with them, and I just repeatedly kept on tearing one of the girls' books at the top corner of her book. Because they wouldn't let me play with them, and they kept on going and telling a teacher. A teacher told me to stay away, but I didn't. I kept on going back and kept on going back to tear her book a bit more. And then I got sent to the head teacher's office in floods of tears because I was being told off, and I did not like being told off, and the head teacher was quite scary. And then I just remember having to sellotape the book back together while the rest of the kids watched a video. This was in year 2 when I was about 6 years old, and my mum, because my mum used to come into school to help other kids with their reading, and I actually saw my mum talking to the school teacher through the glass of the classroom windows, and I knew that the teacher was telling my mum what had happened, and I was like, well, I was full of dreading. And sure enough, that day, for after school, for the rest of the day, my mum would not stop going on about why I should not tear another kid's book and how horrible I'd been, and she was telling me off and shouting at me. But of course, the only reason I did it was because I wanted to play, but they didn't let me play with them. So I had lots of experiences like this. But I really, really wanted to make friends with other kids. Like I say, out of school, I was a very social child. I would not hesitate to go up to kids on the playgrounds. You know, when we went at a playground, when we went on holiday, for example, we went on the same place on holiday every single year. We went to Devon every single summer, and I always looked forward to trying to make friends with the other kids. It's like a project of mine. I just loved it. I would go up to the swings and sit on the swing next to another child, and I would persist and say, "Hello, what's your name? Would you like to play with me?" And it was me taking the initiative. I was really very out there and really wanted to make friends, and I was so pleased when the kids would say, "Yeah, let's play." But I just didn't understand the whole mechanics of friendships and how to do friendships in a proper way. So yes, I might play with another kid for, you know, a chase game for, you know, a short period of time while on holiday, but at home I didn't have any friends. The first time I actually made a friend with another girl in my class was when I was about 8, sort of 9 years old, that sort of age. And that was the first time I actually made friends with another girl who was the exact same age as me in my class, in my actual peer group. But it was a very rocky relationship. It was off and on, because I often broke up with her because I couldn't share friends, so I couldn't do the whole group thing. So if another girl wanted to play with her or was going round to her house after school or whatever, then as far as I was concerned, she was no longer my friend anymore. Because if she was my friend, why the hell was she going round? Why was she going round to another girl's house? That didn't make sense. If she was my friend, she should stay with me at all times and shouldn't really be talking to other girls, shouldn't be playing with other girls, because in my mind, I would only have one friend at a time. So consequently, we often split up. So it's very much off and on. I did go round to her house a few times. She came round to my house. We did all the things like, you know, we played games, we played teachers. Loved playing teachers. So yeah, we did have a bit of a friendship, but it was very much off and on. And I lost all contact with her once we started secondary school, and then she became a bit mean and a bit horrid to me from time to time, and we weren't friends at all from that point onwards. And again, there were a few kids that lived at the back of my house whose grandparents tried to make us to be friends with one another and introduced us to those kids. So that was very much kind of like adult orchestrated. I wouldn't have been friends with them if it wasn't for their grandmother introducing me and my brother to them. They were, again, several years younger than me. Again, it was usually always younger kids I played with. And we would play games on our bikes, and that was all very fun. But again, it didn't last, and eventually we just fell out, and I couldn't keep the friendship going. And also I had this habit of annoying other kids because I didn't understand other people had feelings. So as far as I was concerned, if another kid got upset because I did something that was a bit inappropriate, I just found it funny because I didn't understand that they had feelings and I didn't understand why this was wrong. So as far as I was concerned, it was hilariously funny, and of course that didn't help me make friends. And so, like I say, I often fell out with kids. So yes, all through primary school, although I did play with kids now and again, and I occasionally had these off and on friendships with other kids, most of the time I was what I now realise was basically a complete loner, and I built up this reputation in the classroom as being rather weird, and often fell out with other kids, and consequently they would annoy me because they saw me as annoying. So kids would do things like try and trip me up in the playground and stuff like that, or and just obviously because I was a very annoying kid. So I sort of gradually realised because of these experiences that I was different, but I didn't really understand why this was. And the teachers noticed that I wasn't really making friends with other kids either, but they just thought I was like emotionally immature. and they called me an enigma because I didn't understand. Then, of course, when I started secondary school, I made a friend straight away, and I was so happy. And I really thought that I was putting my past behind me. I thought, this is a new start. I'm going to be really popular, and I'm going to have lots of friends, and I'm going to start all anew. This is what I really felt. I really felt that I was going to start completely from scratch. But unfortunately, it didn't last. I made friends with this one girl in my class. And we did a few things together, like I remember we went shopping on one occasion. I went to her house one or two occasions. I don't think she actually came round to my house, but I remember going round to her house. But it just didn't last, and I think the reason for this was basically I was really very possessive, and I used to follow her around everywhere. Because I didn't have any understanding of personal space, but I just didn't understand any of these friendship rules. Like, when are you supposed to get up and follow someone? If someone goes off to the toilet, like your friend, should you follow them into the toilets? Or should you just not follow them? If they're going to the canteen to buy some food, should you follow them while they go and buy what they need to? I was constantly at her side. I would never leave her. And I remember when I went on the Isle of Wight residential, and we stayed at a hostel on the Isle of Wight, I was really upset because I couldn't share a room with her because she was sharing with another girl. And I gradually saw her getting more and more pally with this other girl, and they were walking arm in arm together round the park near around the hostel. And I remember looking out the window, seeing her walking arm in arm, and I was crying because to me, I was like, this girl, she's stealing my friend. This is my friend, and she's going off with her. And I thought we were friends, and I thought we were best friends. What's happening? So I was like really confused, but I couldn't talk to this to anyone because I didn't know at this age like what this was. But I just saw that she was getting increasingly pally with other girls who wanted to be friends with them, and this was really, I found this really, really like scary. And not long after I saw her walking off with this other girl, she just came to me one day and just said, look, I don't want to be friends with you anymore, you're just too clingy, you follow me around everywhere. And that was that. I had a few other experiences like that of getting friends with other girls. Like, there's one other girl I became friends with. She actually befriended me. She was the one who approached me because I was standing all on my own, because I was always on my own pretty much. By the vending machine one lunchtime, she just said, would you like to be friends? So I developed a friendship with her, and she actually told me I was her best friend, and she gave me all these cards and really pretty cards and things she'd made for me, like all about being best friends and stuff. And again, I was like really happy, and I went round to her house, she came round to my house, and we did things like paint each other's nails and all that sort of stuff you do when you're teenagers. But again, it didn't last, and in this case, the reason why it didn't last was because in her mind I didn't speak enough. She told me, she said, I prefer being with girls who speak more. You're really quiet. You just cannot keep a conversation going. Because I didn't know what to say. I couldn't do the whole small talk thing. I could start it off. I could say things like, oh yeah, it's a nice day outside. Because in this country that's what we do a lot. We talk about the weather, and that's one of the first rules I picked up was to talk about the weather. So I could do like that really basic level small talk, but I couldn't keep the conversation going. I just had no idea what else are you supposed to talk about. It's like really confusing and like really, really hard work. Again, I didn't know why. I remember actually saying to my mum after school, how are you supposed to keep conversations going? What do you talk about? And my mum was like, well, you just know. And I'm like, well, I don't know. And then there's another girl who kind of was very protective of me and sort of looked after me a bit. Like, she's always checking on me, a bit like a sort of mothery sort of figure. And she would like come up to me like a side and say, oh, you're right, Anna, and stuff like that. And like really look after me and like help me find a way around the school. And she'll tell other girls to stop being mean to me. And she's like really protective. On one level, I liked this because it was quite nice having someone that I could rely on like that, who was quite maternal and sort of like looked after me. But that friendship didn't kind of work out either. Again, I went round to her house, she came round to mine, and we played together a couple of times. She happened to be friends with a girl who told me she couldn't be friends with her anymore because I was too clingy, and they had an off-on relationship. So when she fell out with that other girl, she sort of came over to me and tried to be my friend. She tried to introduce me to this group of other girls, but I couldn't do the whole group thing, and I just got really bored, and eventually I think I ended up annoying some of them, and again was left completely on my own. So as I say, I had these experiences, and eventually I just gave up trying, because I just couldn't make friends. I didn't know how to make friends. I tried, and it just hadn't worked out. I tried so many different tactics to make friends. Me just being all really, really quiet, and I guess taking on that sort of shy girl persona, and some people did think I was shy. I'm not shy, but I did appear shy, because I could be so very, very quiet, because I just didn't know what to talk about. And I was trying to like play it by the rules and like do the right thing, and obviously to try and ensure I wasn't too inappropriate, I'd often just not say very much. So I'd kind of like move from being exceptionally quiet to being like really quite inappropriate and out there. And I think the times when I was inappropriate and out there, part of that was a bit of attention seeking, probably. I think because I couldn't make friends, I didn't know how to make friends, but I wasn't quite content just to sit back and just kind of let to be ignored. So when I did like really kind of out there things, like there's one time I told everyone I slept with my dog just to get attention, and it went round the whole school. But then my dad got a phone call saying, "Is this true? Has Anna slept with a dog?" Because he was quite concerned, like in case social services would get involved. It was actually really funny. I was like laughing. I found it so funny because that's the other thing. Kids would take the mickey out of me and they would tease me, but I just used to find it funny. And I didn't understand it. They weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at me. And girls used to say it. They say, "We're not laughing with you. We're laughing at you." But I thought because they were laughing, I thought this was good, and that I thought it was really really funny. So I would do these really inappropriate things. Some of them so inappropriate, I'm not going to talk about them on camera. But some of the things were really immature, and just like could have got me into trouble. But I kind of did them sort of like behind the scenes. I never did them in front of teachers, although I did get told off a few times by teachers for talking in class, being really stupid and like saying really rude, inappropriate things. But other kids found it funny, and that was my way of like getting some social feedback because I couldn't make friends in a normal way. So I thought, well, plan B, I'm just going to be inappropriate, and then at least I get some form of attention. But of course, the problem with that is that increasingly I built up this really weird reputation at school, and kids started to see me as increasingly weird. But if I were to just be all quiet and shy, I wasn't getting any friends either. So what was I supposed to do? So in the end, I just completely gave up trying. I just spent lunch times completely locked away in the toilets because I tried everything and I just couldn't make friends, and it just became increasingly harder as I went through secondary school. Anyway, so that's my past. And then I got diagnosed with Asperger's when I was 21. Like, I should have been diagnosed way earlier than that, and that's a whole other story. Particularly as teachers knew that I had problems making friends right from primary school, and I had a whole range of other problems to put on top of that as well, academic problems, educational psychology involvement. When I was 9, and I got into the secondary school on a disability placement because I knew I had all these issues, so I should really have picked it up, but I didn't. And I guess just because awareness was thin on the ground back then. So it took me until I was 21 to finally get diagnosed, and that's a whole other story. Since getting diagnosed, I do actually now finally have a couple of friends. So between the ages of 12 to now, now I'm 30, but sorry, between the ages of 12 and 27, I didn't have any friends. And then since diagnosis and I started to go to various groups, I have developed a couple of good friendships with other autistic people. I don't have any neurotypical friends currently. The last time I had a neurotypical friend, as I say, was when I was at school and it didn't work out. So my experiences on the neurotypical front with making friends just aren't very good. But what I have found is that since going to these groups, meeting other autistic people, I found it's a lot easier to make friends with other autistic people. I think because we're like all on the same boat, as it were, and we all have similar difficulties. And obviously, it doesn't mean we're all going to get along. And I know some autistic people I just can't stand and can't get on with at all because we all have different personalities. It's like neurotypicals in a group of neurotypicals. They're not going to get just a neurotypical, in very common, isn't necessarily going to get on to someone else just because they're neurotypical. It goes without saying, it's all different. But I do find that I can relate better, on average, with other autistic people than I can with neurotypicals in terms of making friends. So all my friends now are autistic. I only have a very small number of friends. I say, how many do I have? I have about 1, 2, 3, 4. I would say possibly about 5 5 people I could say are friends, if you like. But out of that 5, just a couple of those are what I call like close friends that I'm in contact with regularly and that I feel I could talk to if I have a problem. They're all autistic.